because this is kind of a fun topic, and I think somebody was sneaking a coffee in the back. Whatever it takes to get there. All right, so we're going to do from a little more conversational point of view, because this is we're talking this morning about something that I think is very much a very strong sin in the church that recently entertained texting. What? All right, since we last talked, let's talk about this part here. All right, so forgive daily. This is what we talked about last week and how we deal with bitterness. We talked about forgiving daily, praying for the blessing. We talked about remembering Romans 12. For those of you guys who didn't get a chance to write that down, write it down. Romans 12, 14 through 19 is a great verse to read every day you wake up. Every day. And every time your spouse makes you mad, read it. Every time you know you're wrong, read it. This is a good one. It's a good t-shirt. So it's and the reminder is that God doesn't forget. And that's his job to take care of the things, the offenses, the difficulties of our lives. So don't forget that. And then our third point was, your days are way too valuable to waste on bitterness. That should be a real one that resonates with all of you, is that if you're sitting around stewing and you're being bitter, you are throwing your life away. And you're only hurting yourself. And then it never changes you for the better. It only makes you unhealthy. That bitterness is what I consider a gateway emotion, that the minute you start to allow bitterness to be a part of your life, all the other bad emotions come right in with it. It just takes time. But before you know it, contempt, all kinds of horrible things, especially towards your spouse is a big one. If you allow bitterness to begin to build in you toward your spouse, you will suddenly begin to feel contempt for your spouse. You begin to hope that they fail or that they go through difficulty. So we have to be very careful not to allow bitterness into our lives, because we will only become more and more healthy as time goes by. So this week we're actually going to stay in Numbers chapter 20, if you want to open a Bible. If not, it's up here on the screen. But we're actually moving on. So we read the encounter where Moses strikes the rock, and then Moses is now kept out of the promised land because God sees Moses' disobedience as cause for that. It says, so Moses sent messengers from Kadesh to the king of Edom. So now they're being moved, and it says, this is what your brother Israel says, and I'll explain what that means in just a moment. You know about all the hardships that have come on us. Our ancestors went down into Egypt, and we lived there many years. The Egyptians mistreated us and our ancestors, but when we cried out to the Lord, he heard our cry, and he sent an angel and brought us up out of Egypt. Now here we are at Kadesh, a town in the edge of your territory. Please let us pass through your country. We will not go through any field or vineyard. We won't drink any water from any well. We will travel along the king's highway, and not turn to the right or to the left until we have passed through your territory. So we're going to spend just a few minutes explaining that first phrase where it says, this is what your brother Israel says. Because a lot of times I think we have this impression that all of God's people are contained in the unit that is traveling through the wilderness. And that's actually not true. Israel had a brother, and that brother's name was Esau. And for those of you guys who don't know, Jacob's name was later changed to Israel. Okay. And so Jacob and Esau, famous story, everybody remembers it, right? You know, Jacob tricks Esau into giving up his birthright for some quality stew in a very nice plate that looks very good right there. And while his mom wails in the background there. I love the Renaissance. So just good, keen perspective of those biblical moments. So Jacob and Esau. Well, anyway, Jacob and Esau become Edom and Israel. Okay, so the descendants of Esau are the Edomites. You with it? Everybody with me? Yeah. Okay, so they are brothers. Israel and Edom. They are brothers. Right? Everybody with me so far? So when Moses says, listen, hey, brother, pal, friend, family, we're coming through. We won't take or eat or do anything, but we will. We just need to pass through. We're on our way to Canaan. We're going to go ahead and squash some Canaanites. And so we just need to go through. Well, there's this tension between these two, obviously, right? Jacob tricked Esau. Later on, they had a point, which we'll talk about later, of reconciliation. But there's a tension here between these two that has now passed down through generations. And just so you have an understanding of the tree, is you start with Abraham, right? Everybody remember Abraham? Yeah. Right? He had many sons, right? Yeah. Everybody want to do it real quick? That warm you up a little bit? Yeah. All right. Ollie is, no, Ollie, no. Fight it Right? So Ishmael, so then from Isaac and Ishmael you had the Ishmaelites. A lot of you guys are like, who are they? We'll explain exactly in just a moment. Thank you, Andrew, for jumping in and ruining the rest of the sermon. So let's go. Yeah, that's right. He's edgy, he's Jones, and didn't get a sweet roll. Anyway, wow. Digress. All right. So you have the Ishmaelites. Isaac then gave birth to Jacob and Esau, right? Okay, then below those two guys, you have the Arabians, which is also known as the Arabs, which is also known as the entirety of the Middle East, is the descendant of Ishmael. Okay? It's interesting, right? Right? That when God told Abraham, I'm going to make you the father of many nations, Abraham is also the father of Muslims. Right? And then, you guys are all like, so next week we're meeting at the mosque. Alright, so below Esau comes Edom and the Edomites. Alright? A little less famous, but still part of the family nonetheless. And then below Jacob you have the nation of Israel. Alright, so do we all understand the tree? You can tell Gabe did not make PowerPoint this week. But I made those little arrows. Nice. That's right, skill set. Alright, so, like I told you, this morning's going to be a little more conversational, so if you wanted to preach, he's sweating this next week. Alright, so here's what you have. You have this tree, and it's really important that Christians get this. Okay? Because, we fall like right there, Alright, but this is all part of the family. So all of these people they're encountering, through a lot of this, all come from the same family tree. Right? I know a lot of times as Christians we have this idea that God picked Israel and there's Israel all by themselves and everybody else was evil and God wanted to crush them. Well, it's not really true. A lot of them are from the same family tree. And so here, this is the generic of the family tree. So Israel says, hey brother, right? They're brothers, right? Hey brother, you don't mind if we pass through? We'll stay on the road. We won't eat anything. Everybody have a brother? Yeah, they're going to eat something. Right? You ever have a brother say, no, man, I'll stay with you for a day. 6 months later. Right? Okay. 2 years. So, right, 2 years. There you go. You change lots. So you have this whole thing going on, right? Okay, so, all right, so this is what Edom says. Edom says, you may not pass through here. If you try, we will march out and attack you with the sword. But we're family, right? We're family. Why you got to come at us with the sword? We're family. Why do you hate us so much? Right? Because Jacob and Esau are gone, right? They're gone. Right? They're all dead. They're gone. But yet here they are, the descendants of these two families. We'll have to build a point on here. Essentially, these two families are saying, listen, brothers, we're passing through. We're all from the same family. We all have the same father Abraham. We are his many sons. And so they're trying to just pass through is all they're trying to do. And so Edom says, no, and if you try, we're going to have to kill you. Because we don't want you to pass through here. We do not want you to have anything to do with our territory. We don't want any part of you here. So now this is where Israel's response should have been, well, if you want to be like that, we have a mighty God that fights for us. And here it comes, right? Well, we're going to pass through because God is with us. But the problem is what? Just recently, Israel and God had a little falling out. Right? God said, sorry, Moses, but you're not going into the promised land. Sorry, Moses. I'm tired of all of you. I'm sick of all of you. And this is really not the God you want to go back to right now for a favor. So Israel doesn't respond that way. Israel responds in a far less invasive way. And they say, no, we'll go along the main road. And if we or our livestock drink any of your water, we'll pay for it. We only want to pass through on foot, nothing else. We don't want to do anything else. So when we come through, we're going to pay for it. We're willing to dig deep into our pockets and pay you, brother, for the water that our animals might consume. So now Israel's trying to keep the peace. They're trying to be nice. And they're saying, listen, we'll do whatever it takes to be able to pass through in a friendly manner. We'll pay you for it. And at that point, Edom was saying, you mean like pay us with stew or something? Right? Right? Because the Edomites are like, don't trust them. Remember what happened last time? I mean, we're talking generations have gone by at this point. But you know that's exactly what Edom is thinking. Yeah, the last time we let you do something, you stole our birthright. You stole from us what should have been ours. We don't think you should come through here. You're not trustworthy. We don't want any part of it. But that's exactly what's going on. Edom is saying, no. We know all about you and your reputation. Now, one of the things, the reason I showed you the tree to begin with, is because there's a lot of crossover in understanding what's going on. Edom is not ignorant of what's going on. Edom knows what Israel is doing. I mean, that's why they say, hey, brothers, remember what happened, how we ended up in Egypt? Remember how we got left for dead and we ended up in slavery? Remember all that? Well, God, how He delivered us. You've heard of the Red Sea, right? Edom, of course you've heard, because there's family members. There's crossover here. Edom's heard everything. Yet Edom is not really that impressed. And Edom says, we don't want any part of you, and if you try to come through, we're going to crush you. And so they say, listen, you're not trustworthy. So again, they answer after they give this, I will pay for it, we promise, we're good for it, write a check. It says, you may not pass through. So now Edom puts their foot down. And then Edom came out against them with a large and powerful army. So now Edom's not just saying we don't trust you. Edom's saying we're going to show you how much we don't trust you. We don't want any part of you here. And so Edom steps back and their government gets together and they send out this large and powerful army to stand basically on the road and say, you're not coming through. If you try, this is family.
Close.
Yeah, it's close, it's family. Right? And they say, try it. And we're going to strike you down with the sword. And since Edom refused to let them go through their territory, Israel turned away from them. So Israel backed down. So this is basically one of your older stories, right? You've seen this story. It's played out in many a Shakespeare play. This concept of brothers, this reality of one being wronged by the other, pain, struggle, jealousy, contempt. All of these things are going on. And so we're going to talk a little bit this morning about Edom, because the people from Edom, you really got to love them, right? I mean, these are the people we encounter a lot, are the Edoms. Okay? We encounter them a lot. And let's take a look at it from Edom's perspective just for a moment. First of all, Israel's wronged them so badly in the beginning. The entire status of who they are as a society and as a civilization is based on Jacob deceiving their founder. Right? This is like Microsoft and Apple. Right? There is a hatred between them, just to make it more contemporary. The reality is, this is what's going on. Is you have a deep-seated wronging that's taken place here. And Edom has made sure that everybody who has been a part of the descendants have heard it. We don't like them because, you know the story about our father Esau. You know the story about our founding father. You know that the truth was taking place. And then from Edom's perspective, Israel was wandering around and God provided for them at every step, even though they didn't deserve it. Right? Edom's going, you guys are killing us. Why did God pick you? Really? Over a pot of stew? And a birthright was given to you, and you guys are wandering around the wilderness, and you do whatever you want. God gives you stuff. Right? That's exactly what's it. Come on, let the humanity creep in for a moment. Why it's a conversation. Let the humanity creep in here. Isn't that exactly what you'd be thinking if you were Edom? Really? Really? You guys get everything you want. We worked so hard to gather territory, build a nation, set up a government. We made a really nice road. It's called what? The King's Highway. That was awesome. Who built that? Edom. Right? We have worked our tails off to build this little slice of heaven for ourselves. And I'm sorry, but I don't trust you. You're going to come in here and you're going to take it. Why? Because I don't know why God likes you, but He does. God does all this stuff for you. We're over here working our tails off to make stuff work. And you're over there going, hee, and God gives you stuff. You know, and God makes this deal with you where if you just worship me, I'm going to give you everything you want. That seems unfair. I don't like it. I'm struggling with it. You've mismanaged everything and wasted everything. Right? Israel ended up where? Egypt. Right? Because they couldn't figure things out for themselves. They ended up in Egypt. And God comes along and bails them out. This is exactly a brotherly fight, right? Anybody in the room have a brother? It's exactly what you do. You always got, if you have two brothers, you got this one, right? You got the one brother who's like, seriously. Doesn't matter what you do, it turns to gold. And you got the other brother who's like, I worked my tail off. And I achieved nothing. But that's what Edom is going to. Are you trying to figure out who that is?
On your family.
He's my family. My brother. Oh, he's the golden ticket. He's my retirement fund. Seriously. But that's the whole thing here. Is that's what's going on. Is there's this battle, and it has gone down from generation to generation to generation. Those who should be so close and working together have been completely separated by deception and turmoil and tension. And so, I was thinking about how would you define the Numbers chapter 20 Edom? Well, first of all, someone who takes up offense for someone else, even though they weren't there. Ever met somebody like that? Who takes up an offense against you because someone else told them to take up that offense against you? They've never met you, but they don't like you because someone told them not to like you. Right? Well, that's what's going on here. Jacob and Esau, they're long gone. They are long since gone. But yet there's this offense that is still being carried by the Edomites against the Israelites because of what Jacob did. A single person made a decision. They probably ignore the fact that Esau was the fool that sold it. Right? Because we never take that part. When it's on our side, we're like, well, if you understand Esau's son, Jacob, he took advantage of a very hungry, hairy guy. Read the story. It was hairy. He took advantage of a feeble old man in a conniving plan with his mother. How could you respect that? But someone who is an Edom takes offense even though they weren't there. Well, I'm offended by you. Why? Because my friend was offended by you. Now, all of us have been Edoms from time to time, right? We have people that we are 100% behind, that we love them to death. They're our favorite people in the world, and they may have flaws, but we ignore it. Right? And we take up their offense. Someone comes up to you and says, hey, you know, so-and-so. No. I'm on their team. You were wrong. And we take up their offense. We've all done it. Someone who's from Edom is someone who doesn't let the past just be the past. Very few of these folks in Edom were probably ever wronged by an Israelite. But yet, they made an assumption based solely upon familial association. You are the Israelites. We don't want any part of this. We can't trust you. You can't trust an Israelite. I mean, look at you. You don't even have a house. You're wandering around in the desert, looking like crazy people. Why would we trust you? Right? But that's what's going on. There's all this is being taken into account. Someone is determined to return the favor. No soup, no passage. We'll just go that way. Right? We're still so offended that we're still taking it out on you. I don't even remember what the offense was. But we're still very offended. One of the theologians I follow on Twitter actually put a Twitter question on there about a year ago, and it said, is it easier to forgive or forget? So everybody says it's easier to forgive than forget. And I responded with, no, I think it's way easier to forget. Half the time you can't even remember what it is you don't forgive someone for. Right? You get mad at somebody long enough, after a while you're like, I don't remember what started it, but I just don't like them. Right? Come on, we all got those people, we can be honest. Or there's just a little tension there, and you really can't remember why, but you just know. And you go to tell your friend the story, and you can't remember exactly the truth, right? So it changes a little bit each time. Well, they told my kid that he was a bad kid. And then a year later, it's they kicked my kid in the teeth. And then a year later, it's whatever. And after a while, we can't remember. Was it your kid? No, it wasn't my kid. It was someone else. We can't remember after a while what it is that we're offended for. We're offended. Well, that's what Edom's doing here, right? Edom is saying, listen, if it wasn't for you guys, we would have a birthright. Well, that's not true. It was Esau's fault because he sold it. It was Esau's fault. If anything, Jacob was just a really good businessman. Right? Because he got God's blessing and the birthright for soup. That's the best deal ever. Right? But that's what's going on here. And that's kind of someone who deals with Edom. It's someone who despises an Israel. Normally because of jealousy. I've met people in the church who absolutely despise people who are like Israel. Who are just wandering about doing what God wants them to do. Who seem kind of flighty and odd and different and weird. And they stand out and we're just kind of like, they don't know what real church work is. They didn't show up for the work day. Not once last year. There are yards to be mowed. There is land to govern. There is leadership structure to set up. Where there's a despising of Israel. There's a despising of the people who live that way. Because they don't work hard. They don't put in 50 hours a week. They don't punch a time clock. They just sort of meander. But the reality is that sometimes God calls you into the wilderness. You're going to be there a while. You're going to be a little different. You're going to stand out. You're going to be a little odd. Churches should have some odd people in it. Right? Now there's something to be said to credit the Edomites here in the fact that they were still able to forge for themselves a profitable existence in spite of the sale of the birthright. They were able to forge for themselves a profitable existence with territory and quality of living and all of these things. That's good. They were able to build that for themselves. But it doesn't then give you in turn the right to despise someone solely because of something that's from your ancestry. And it's someone who doesn't cheer on or assist in the success of another brother's journey. Because of jealousy, normally. Not always, sometimes it's other emotions. But it's when you find yourself unable to celebrate or assist someone because you are jealous of them or they have offended you, but they're a brother in Christ, but you can't encourage them, you can't be excited for them, because in a weird way you're kind of like, well, I really wanted that to be my success. I really wanted that to be my birthright. Whether you gave it away or not, or whether it was their birthright to have all along, a lot of times in the church we have this tension when it comes to celebrating with others, because in a weird way we're kind of jealous of how good they have it. I mean, I'm sure for the average person in Edom, there was part of them where we're like, well, we have this really cool, safe existence over here, living in these really sweet houses in this nice piece of land. But it would be really cool to have been able to say, I walked through the Red Sea, right? It would have been really cool to watch God bring water. And so, you know what? Because you guys wrong this, I don't know what to do. I'm not going to help you. I'm not going to give you a simple little thing like let you walk through. But that's what people who are from Edom deal with. They're hanging on to all this stuff, and they just refuse to encourage and to be enthusiastic and cheer on another brother because they've been wronged by that brother. Or maybe they're from a different denomination. Or maybe their belief system seems a little different than ours. Or because we maybe don't like the way they do things, or we don't trust the way they do things, or whatever. It's easy to kind of discount their faith and push them out. And so that when they come to us for help and we go, well, sorry, but I don't agree with you. Or you're not like me. Or you wronged my dad. But we do harbor that stuff and we hang on to it. I know I was a pastor's kid growing up. My mom was a pastor in the church. And for anyone who's ever dealt with the turmoil that comes from women in ministry, if you are a woman and God calls you to be a pastor, I think that's awesome. But I will tell you, it's going to be hard. Based solely on gender. It doesn't matter how smart you are, how keen you are, how amazing you are, how discerning you are, how insightful you are. Based solely on gender, you will struggle. I grew up in a home where we were under constant attack from the men in the church, and often sometimes from the women. Women had that little habit. And they would come under, my mom was under attack all the time. All the time. And what's interesting is my dad wasn't a Christian. Which just added to it. condemnation of my family. But, that's the best way to get someone saved, by the way, is just to absolutely have the church just pounce on their spouse. I don't know why my dad didn't feel like just in love with the church to this day, but the reality is when you come under those kinds of attacks, you have to deal with those things. It would have been very easy for me to take up offense, but I was a teenage boy, and half the people that were calling her out were the people who were in charge and part of the church that I was a part of. And it was hard to not go, you don't like my mom, so I don't like you. Ha! My wife always says that my face has a conversation that my mouth doesn't. It's been that way since I was a kid. And so, and I would sit there and I'd have somebody who I know was attacking my mom come to me and be like, hey buddy, how you doing? And I'd be like, great. You're my favorite. But it was hard. And it was hard for me. I had to learn to accept, to forgive those people, because it was the only way I could function in the church. It could have been a home of bitterness for me. It could have been a home of awfulness for me. Because everybody was out to get my mom in my head. It's not true, but that's how I felt. Because I saw everything else. Everybody else sees this. Standing here, pulpit, teaching, preaching, reading, all that. But your pastor's got to go home. And when, every time you go to church, you're basically going to the woodshed with people. Guess what happens when you go home? Somebody got to hear it. And my dad, not being a Christian, was not the best, sounding board for mom. So it ended up being my brother and my sister. It was hard. But that's what's happening here between Edom and Israel, is you have this flow of information is going down from the people who established Edom about Israel. Most of them had no real understanding of the start. They heard stories, but they didn't have an emotional connection to the start. So they were living off, like I said last week, the inherited hatred for what took place. And so in the church, we have to be extremely careful about how much of an Edom we are. And I'll explain to you what I mean here. There was a resolution between Jacob and Esau. They met, they hugged, they dealt. Jacob came back to Esau with a humble and penitent heart and said, I submit to my brother. I am sorry for what I did. I should not have done that, but what's done is done. And there was a moment where the two of them shared, as so graciously painted by someone I'm sure who was there. They have a moment where they have a reconciliation. There is a resolution between the two of them. But what's interesting is here we are generations later, others have just picked up the fight. And they're right back to where they started, even though they had done that. And so you have to ask yourself, is arguing Edom to an Israel? One of the things that we need to do is take an inventory of our offenses and ask ourselves who they belong to. And that might sound like an obvious question, but it's something that all of us really need to consider and think about. Is what offenses in your life are yours versus what offenses are you carrying for somebody else? What offenses are you running to because you decided you were going to get offended for someone else? I could have easily gotten offended for my mother, and I did. And I had to deal with it. And it was hard for me to trust certain leadership for a while because it was hard. But I'm sorry, but it was difficult. Now, at my age, I let her fight her own battles. Give her a little fist bump when she's home. I let her fight her own battles because she was more than capable of doing so. But taking inventory of our own difficulties, taking the offenses that we are carrying, are they ours or are they somebody else's? Because like I said, there was a resolution between the two. And you have to be very careful that you're not fighting a battle that has already been treated. I tell people all the time, when you go through struggles, especially with your spouse, be very careful who you include in that argument. If you are struggling with your husband, if you are struggling with your wife, if you are struggling with someone you love, and you take to Facebook about it, it doesn't come back. You know what I'm saying? Which means that night, your husband may come home and say, you know what, I've been a terrible husband, and I have been praying, and I just want you to know I'm sorry. And you go, oh, honey, I love you. Never doubted you for a second. You give him a big old sloppy kiss and a nice hug, and you say, let's get through this together. And then you get up the next day, and all of a sudden, you see 419 comments on your status update. It says, my husband is a pig. And now, guess what? You got to go fight that fight all over again, don't you? And hurry up and delete it before your husband sees it. But the reality is, it's a little tactic. Just let you know, delete quicker. Works up there. But the reality is now you have to go deal with the fact that you have a lot of people who are going to take up your fight. Right? Men for men, women for women. Right? Ladies, you take up fights for ladies really well. Right? Men, we kind of do it. We're not quite as good, at teaming up, but, we just kind of go, sorry, bro. But the reality is, the thing is if once you get that information out, once you begin to share that offense, once you begin to go through those things, what happens is it filters down. And while up here you may fix it, you may get the information out and say, you know what, we have resolved our conflict. My husband and I are happy as can be, and we are totally in love, and it's like we're honeymooning all over again, and it's like we just started dating, and he's Mr. Romance, and he bought me a diamond necklace, and he's taking me to the Caribbean for 7 years. You are going to have a faction of those people who responded to the first one who are going to say, you're just saying that. Right? You're just saying that. Because you guys have been fighting for years. You're just saying that. Poor girl's just hurt. No, but you could be true. You could be honest. But you can't get it back, can you? What happened here is you have an offense that led down through the people. And they have hung on to it. They had every right to tell Israel they couldn't pass through. They had every right. So be very careful about that. And if they're not your offenses, you need to let the past be the past. And ask for forgiveness for harboring those feelings for so long. If jealousy and bitterness keep you from cheering on brother in Christ, you have a problem. That's simple. Don't really need to explain it, right? You have a problem. And we all do. We all go through it. As much as we all think we're on the same team, there's times when, man, I feel like I'm on a totally different team. So we have to be very careful to know that we have a problem. And lastly, make sure you don't create Edoms. That's what I was just talking about. Make sure you do not create Edoms. Make sure you do not run around and try to gather a entire group of people to help you with your offense. The Bible says if you have an offense, go take care of it. If they don't listen, go get one. If they don't listen, go get a couple. Go through it biblically first. After that, get your Facebook. We'll go through it biblically first. And just kidding, please. But the reality is, be careful you don't create Edoms. This is why I think this is one of the predominant sins of the church in general, is that we struggle with this idea of not having our pains heard. I'm sure it was painful for Esau. We don't read a lot about Esau after this, at least not about how he felt emotionally. We don't know, but I'm sure it was painful for Esau to live the rest of his life knowing he'd given it away from that. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure he was angry with his brother for cheating him in his own mind. He was angry with his brother for cheating him out of it, for fooling his father, for doing all the things that Jacob did. I'm sure he was mad. But then somehow that just kind of came down and it became everybody else. He told his kids told their kids, they told their grandkids, they told their grandkids. Before you know it, you got an entire nation of people who are like, don't trust Israel. But that's what happens when we breed that kind of thing. And the church has to be very careful, all of us, to not do that. We all do it. I do it. Everybody does it. But this is one of the primary sins of the church, because we always do it with the best interests, right? Best of intentions. I just want someone to care about me. So I'm going to gather as many people as I know, let them care about me. We don't do it to hurt people. We do it because we're afraid no one's listening. We do it because we're afraid that someone's going to forget. We do it because we need to. We do it because it makes us feel better. We don't do it to hurt, but ultimately it hurts. very careful not to create kingdoms that carry our offense. And there are churches that are built on that stuff, carrying the offense. And then finally, if you've created it even, you need to go to him or her and admit your error. And I'm not talking about the person who offended you. I'm talking about the Edom you created. You just sit down and say, look, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. It happens. And my bad. That works really well, just say it happens. And just understand, all of us are forgive each other for that stuff. I mean, that's part of the church, is you should be able to look at each other and say, I forgive you. I understand, it happens. Just needed a place to vent. Right? A place to be honest. It's fine. Now we move on. I promise to not carry your offense onto my grandchildren. Right? That's an easy one normally to guarantee. But, my grandchildren will not carry your offense. But that's the reality of how you look at these kinds of interactions, because you have to understand the Old Testament from a family tree. It's all family. And the reality is this is what happens. And the church is a family, right? When we get hurt by each other, we want to make sure somebody listens. That's what families do. We love them. So we need to be very careful to not allow that stuff to hinder our growth. And make sure that if your brother ever comes to you and wants to pass through your backyard, you let him. You know what I'm saying? And make sure you're not still fighting the battle. So, everybody got it? And more conversation. Less preaching. Alright, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to have a little different. I'm going to have the worship team come back up, and they're going to do that last song again, which would be a very cool alarm clock song. That's what I was thinking. I didn't really think the Narnia connection. But now every time I sing it, I will. But I was totally thinking the whole time they were singing this song that would be a great way to wake up in the morning, wouldn't it? Just have Alex go, dude, 6 a.m. Not Alex, 6. But so here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a little different. Hi, Drew. Alright, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a little different. I'm going to have everybody, except for, you two, because you have a job. But Molly and Chris, come on up. Everybody get up here in this group right here. And we are going to take just a few minutes and pray together and sing together and enjoy the music together. And so, if there are any of you who are like genuinely going, man, I'm struggling with offense, or I'm struggling with bitterness, or I'm struggling with these things, take this time, pray by yourself if you like, or do what's biblical. Be honest with somebody next to you. Tell them, I'm struggling. I got a lot of bitterness inside of me, and it's making me unhealthy. Be honest with somebody. No one in this room is sinless. No one. So you shouldn't feel weird. And then we have needs, things that are going on. The worship team is going to be more atmosphere than necessarily what you should be staring at this point. You should be talking to each other. And I do want to make sure that during this time, we need to have some of the men in the church. We need to pray with Tony. And just keep praying with Tony. And so, is everybody okay with that? Yeah? Nod your heads. Does everybody stand up? Molly, Chris, make your way this way, please. You don't go for the door, Chris. I saw it, dude. You had that look. You're going for the door. So I get some of the guys in church, especially the elders, come on over. Pray with Tony. And let's just spend a few minutes. Turn to somebody next to you and be honest right now before they start playing. You got bitterness, you got some generational offense you're carrying. If you hate the church because your mom and dad hated the church, you have beliefs because your mom and dad have beliefs. You don't like people because your husband doesn't like people. Those kind of things are things you should be talking about. So turn, share with each other, spend a few minutes praying together, and worship team will close us in the song in just a minute. Father God, we just thank you so much for the truth of that song. And I think it's one of those things that the greater we take it to heart, the more we understand it, the more we're enthusiastic about just the idea of it. And I thank you for the worship team's willingness to branch out, especially to grab hold of that song, put it together for us. It's a real blessing to have them. God, we just pray, Father, that we can let go of any offense that isn't ours, that isn't ours specific to deal with, but that one we're carrying for someone else. That we can step back and say, I'm going to encourage my friend who's been offended to go deal with that offense. I'm not going to champion that call. I'm going to encourage him to do it the biblical way. And just be dealt with so that when it is dealt with, it's dealt with, and there's not a whole chain that you got to deal with now. And so, Father, I just thank you for that. And Father, I just pray a blessing with this group of people. It's just an honor to be able to hang out with them every week and see what you're doing in their lives. Father, I just pray for continued growth and strength in all of us. Go with us this week. Amen.
Amen.
All right, y'all are dismissed.